today we talked to Ruchir Kanakia, the founder of Unscripted, and got a deep insight into two of the most talked about plans in the sector, Niva Bupa and HDFC Urco. So stay tuned, subscribe to our channel to know more about such plans. So let me start with the basics. What was your motivation to start a company in the insurtech?
Actually, we stumbled upon this. We actually wanted to build technology for distributors in the market, which typically constitutes about 90 to 95% of the products which are being sold in health and life insurance. And we wanted to make their life easy. And that's how we stumbled upon health insurance. Then we realized that this product itself is very complicated. And there is no player in the market who's just focusing on doing this and doing this right using technology. That's how we went ahead and pivoted. First, we powered a lot of distributors in the business, like wealth managers who ended up using our platform, and now we are powering consumers directly.
So, जब हम दो बड़े कंपनीज की बात करते हैं जैसे नीवा बुपा एंड HDFC अर्को, तो ऐसे क्या सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पैरामीटर्स होते हैं जब हम पॉलिसी लेने जा रहे हैं और कंपेयर करना चाहिए?
So, actually parameters तो बहुत कम ही है, right? It's typically people who make it sound more complicated.
So when we talk about claim settlement ratio, which is a very talked about parameter, but it happens not to be one of the most important. Can you put some light on it?
Yeah, so everyone uses claim settlement ratio the way they want to, right? And they publish it on their website. Now, the key here to understand is that everyone's not calculating it in the same manner, right? And that's why this ratio does not mean anything for anyone. So some companies may include claims where the customer has filed the claim but has not finished the paperwork of the entire claim, and hence a claim ID is not generated, which means for some companies this is not a valid claim until the claim ID gets generated. But from a consumer standpoint, it is a valid claim. The expense was made. The guy went to the hospital, he paid the amount out of his pocket. It's just that he did not go ahead and finish the paperwork to justify a valid claim, right? And that's why this ratio is a misleading ratio for a lot of us in this industry, right? So when I think about claim settlement ratio, it's not even in one of my parameters when I'm talking to or advising a customer, right? What matters is that a better way to look at it is that how many complaints are you getting on the total base of that company, right? And that tells you that whether the company is, and the complaints will be most likely related to claims only, right? Because insurance, you're buying insurance to claim, effectively. You're not buying insurance to just buy it for the sake of it, right? You're trying to protect your downside for any erosion of wealth that can happen due to a misfortune in health or some accident you can't predict such things. So from that perspective, I believe that what is important is how many customers are complaining, whether they're getting the money, they're not getting the money, how quickly are they getting the money, and those complaints are a better metric actually to judge a company.
So there's also a term called incurred claim ratio, which a lot of people don't know about it. So if you can tell if that plays an important factor.
That plays actually an important factor for how good the company is performing, right? What incurred claim ratio is the premium I collect in a quarter and the claims I give out, and what percentage of the claims I give out is the premium. So if my incurred claim ratio is higher, which means I'm paying out higher claims. Now this may not be true whether the financial health of the company is good or no, whether it is growing, but I'm paying out more claims. I can be paying out more claims because I have bad underwriting, which effectively means I'm taking on risk which I should not be taking on. So you can't effectively predict what is happening when an incurred claim ratio is high or low. When an incurred claim ratio is low, it also can indicate that the company has underwritten people who are young. Hence the frequency of claim is lower, and hence incurred claim ratio is lower. Hence that company is better profitable or is growing. In conjunction with growth, you can also say that if the incurred claim ratio is low and they're growing healthily quarter on quarter, then their profitability is going to be high.
So जब हम इन दो कंपनीज की बात करते हैं तो आप कैसे एग्जैक्टली कंपेयर करेंगे कि
दोनों के प्रोडक्ट्स बहुत अच्छे हैं, राइट? पहले तो लेट्स डू अ कंपनी लेवल कंपैरिजन. यार HDFC अर्को और नीवा बुपा दोनों कंपनीज का स्टेटस क्या है? HDFC अर्को का प्रमोटर HDFC ग्रुप है. Niva Bupa has become a public company and Bupa is a foreign insurer. And the foreign insurer has now owns majority of that company today, right? Both the companies are good. Now, difference in HDFC Ergo is a general insurance company. Niva Bupa is a standalone health insurance company. A standalone health insurance company can only do health products. Hence, the features which Niva Bupa will come out in the market will be something which maybe HDFC Ergo will find it difficult to match, right? But as a company, as a brand, HDFC Ergo is a stronger brand, right? And is a bigger company also, right? In the sense that the amount of premiums they process a year is multiple times what Niva Bupa does annually, right? Because all of us have banked with HDFC Bank, right? So that name is very familiar to us. We see a bank at every corner of every street in this country, especially in metro cities, right? So this bank is popular, and the bank is the promoter of this company. Features of this particular, both these products, right, are more or less the same, right? We can talk about 4 or 5 distinct features. Now, similar features are there in Niva. Now, what Niva has done is they've come up with multiple variants of Reassure 2.0. You have a bronze variant, you have a platinum variant, you have a titanium variant. The bronze variant typically will give you 3x benefit, platinum 5x, and titanium 10x, which means your sum insured can get carried forward up to 10x of your limit. So a 10 lakh plan can effectively over a period of time become a 1 crore coverage. Sum insured restoration, HDFC Ergo typically does it once a year, and that's how the last X or 4X comes into play. Whereas in Niva Reassure 2.0, it's unlimited times, right? So it is actually better when it comes to Niva Reassure. The biggest differentiating factor which Niva has is something called as Reassure 2.0. You have something called as Lock the Clock. What that does is that your health insurance premium increases every year based on 2 factors. One is your own age, second is medical inflation. Now in Reassure 2.0, you have a feature called Lock the Clock, which effectively means that my age-related increase in premium will not happen until I go ahead and claim for the first time. And this is available in their inbuilt in their topmost variant, right? Which means that if I'm paying 25,000 until I claim for the first time, which may be due to dengue or maybe any hospitalization, my premium due to age will be the same, right? It may increase due to inflation, for which they may file with the regulator separately and they can get an increase. But generally, age-related inflation, age-related increase is what causes a major bump in premiums.
Okay, now if we take an example that एक 30 साल का आदमी है जो 1 करोड़ का कवर लेता है, तो दोनों में से कौन सा सस्ता पड़ेगा?
Niva Reassure के वेरिएंट सस्ते पड़ेंगे, ठीक है? I would also classify certain companies as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 companies, right? This is generally the way we look at it. Way we classify these companies as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 is if the number of complaints we get from customers, their customers, if they are particularly low, then they are a tier 1 company. And the health of the company is good, they are backed by a reputed promoter. So HDFC Ergo falls there in that group, right? And hence you're paying the premium for them being tier 1, right? Niva ends up between tier 1 and tier 2 somewhere, right? They're backed by a foreign insurer which is very reputed in the nature. They're a public company, so that's also works in their favor. But at the same time, the number of complaints which Niva customers have is higher comparatively compared to HDFC Ergo, right? So that's where you can say HDFC Ergo maybe has an upper hand here, right? But it comes at a cost. Nothing is free, right, in India. So someone's going to charge a little more than for you to get insured at that.
तो जब हम बात करते हैं कि Niva Bupa has a lot of complaints, we see that every day in news and all of that. What could be one possible reason that it is because they have a communication gap?
कम्युनिकेशन गैप, प्रोसेसेस जो आप बनाते हो वो हैंड आउट नहीं होते, ये सारी चीज़ें कंपाउंड होती है, राइट? जब आपने एक क्लेम फाइल किया, आपको कितने टाइम में वो क्लेम मिलता है एक अच्छा इंपॉर्टेंट मेट्रिक है, राइट? अगर ये क्लेम मिलते मिलते 60 दिन हो गए तो प्रॉब्लमैटिक है ना आपके लिए. आपने तो अपने जेब से पैसे लगा लिए, राइट? सो फॉर 60 days you are like now waiting for the insurer to settle your claim. Most of them say they settle in 30 days, but it seldom happens that way. क्योंकि हर कोई इंश्योरर फिर क्वेरीज पूछता है. अब क्वेरीज पूछेगा तो उनको आंसर भी करना पड़ेगा, जस्टिफाई भी करना पड़ेगा. मैं एक एग्जांपल के साथ समझाता हूँ कि आपने ये मोड ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट ही क्यों लिया जब ऑल्टरनेट अवेलेबल था. ये जस्टिफिकेशन अगर आपको देना है इंश्योरर को या उसके अंडरराइटर को, तो आपके डॉक्टर को एक प्रिस्क्रिप्शन पे या कहीं पे लिख के देना पड़ेगा. अब ये आपको लाना पड़ेगा और उसको एक पर्टिकुलर फॉर्मेट में लिखना पड़ेगा. अब ये सारे क्वेश्चन वो इसलिए भी यूज़ करते हैं कि अगर कोई ट्रीटमेंट नेसेसरी नहीं थी और प्रिवेंटिव रीजंस के वजह से उन्होंने वो ट्रीटमेंट की थी, तो दे कैन पोटेंशियली एक्सक्लूडेड फ्रॉम योर क्लेम. बाकी आपको पैसा दे देंगे. सो दे विल आस्क यू व्हाई सर्टेन थिंग्स वर डन, एक बड़ा पॉपुलर एग्जांपल होता है डेंगू, किसी को भी कभी भी हो जाता है। हर इंश्योरेंस कंपनी अपना खुद का रूल फॉलो करती है कि आपका हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन नेसेसरी था या नहीं, क्योंकि डेंगू में आप सिम्टम्स को मैनेज करते हो, आप एक्चुअली ट्रीट नहीं करते अंडरलाइंग कंडीशन, एंड इट बिकम्स रैम्पेंट नाउ, स्पेशली नाउ दैट वी आर गेटिंग इनटू द मॉनसून सीजन इन इंडिया, राइट? सो सर्टेन इंश्योरेंस विल बी लाइक, oh, your platelet count was not below 100,000 ये, so maybe the hospitalization is not necessary. If it is below 100,000, then maybe you will get the hospitalization claim. Here, a role of an advisor plays very important, because he is now able to guide the customer on what to do, when to do, and whether the customer will get the claim. If I guide the customer honestly, then eventually there is no expectation mismatch at the time of claiming. Now, two things: when I went to the hospital, my SpO2 was above, but when I got admitted, it dropped below the government prescribed limit, which means this is a valid hospitalization. But the report attached with my claim form was that my SpO2 level was above, but I forgot to attach the report after when I got admitted into the hospital where the SpO2 level down. A simple mistake like this can cost you the entire amount.
और जैसे हम बात करें छोटी छोटी चीज़ों की, जैसे OPD या डे ऑफ केयर कवर, ये भी इम्पोर्टेंट फैक्टर्स आती हैं डिसीजन मेकिंग में या?
डिपेंड करता है। मेजॉरिटी OPD कवर इंडिया में लोग अपने जेब से भर देते हैं, राइट? एक बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है वहाँ एक प्लान लॉन्च करने की, बट एट द सेम टाइम इसमें फ्रॉड भी उतना होता है, राइट? क्योंकि किसी का दोस्त डॉक्टर है, उसने एक प्रिस्क्रिप्शन दे दिया, आपने क्लेम डाल दिया। देयर इज नो वे फॉर अस टू वैलिडेट सर्टेन क्लेम्स लाइक दैट, बट OPD हेल्प सीनियर सिटीजन्स को ज़्यादा करती है कंपेयर टू मोस्ट जनरल पब्लिक एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम, बिकॉज यू आर रिक्वायर्ड टू गो एंड मीट अ डॉक्टर और गेट योर एनुअल हेल्थ चेकअप डन वेरी फ्रीक्वेंटली कंपेयर टू एनीवन else. But at the same time, where I see the gap is that the cost of OPD is as good as paying out of your pocket. So insurance is not subsidizing that cost to the extent it should, ideally. So that's one. Daycare procedures, both companies cover most of the daycare procedures, right? So there's not much of a difference there.
और कमिंग टू क्लेम अप्रूवल, तो इन क्लेम अप्रूवल जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन होता है वो कितना इम्पोर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है?
यार, एक तो पहले हर क्लेम आपका दो इज ब्रोकन इनटू टू पार्ट्स। अगर आपने कैशलेस भी लिया है, आप हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन होने के पहले के जो खर्चे हैं वो भी क्लेम कर सकते हैं, राइट? और उसके बाद रिकवरी के भी खर्चे वो भी आप क्लेम कर सकते हैं अप टू अ सर्टेन नंबर ऑफ डेज। दोनों पॉलिसीज में इट्स सफिशिएंट, राइट? एंड सर्टेन पीपल इन इंडिया प्रेफर आयुष, राइट? And Ayush coverage may have a sublimit in certain plans. So that's how you go ahead and compare these plans and come to, and that's why it becomes very personal. आप कौन से टाइप का ट्रीटमेंट लेना चाहते हो, आपका प्रेफरेंस क्या है, ये समझ के आपको एडवाइस करना पड़ेगा कि ये प्लान आपके लिए बेटर है या वो प्लान आपके लिए बेटर है।
ओके रुचिर, तो अब कोई कंफ्यूज हो रहा है कि नीवा भूपा लेना चाहिए या फिर HDFC लेना चाहिए, तो ऐसी क्या सिचुएशन है, किसको क्या चूज करना चाहिए?
एक एग्जांपल हियर एज वेल, राइट? अगर आपके पास कोई प्री एग्जिस्टिंग कंडीशन नहीं है और आप HDFC अफोर्ड कर सकते हो वो एक्स्ट्रा प्रीमियम 10-20%, तो आप HDFC ले लो। या आपके पास प्री एग्जिस्टिंग कंडीशन होती है और आपके कोई प्रेफरेंस होते हैं, तब जाके देन नीवा, इट कैन वर्क इन फेवर ऑफ नीवा, राइट? लाइक इफ यू आर वैल्यू कॉन्शियस एंड यू वांट द बेस्ट बैंग फॉर योर मनी, देन नीवा इज द product, right, where you have that lock the clock feature where you buy that variant and then stop worrying about rising premiums year over year. So it depends on what sort of a customer you are and what your needs are completely.
और ऐसा भी कभी हुआ है कि कोई ऐसा कस्टमर हो जिसके लिए ये दोनों ही सूटेबल नहीं, कोई ऐसी सिचुएशन?
बहुत सारी सिचुएशंस होती है कि ये दोनों कंपनीज ऐसे कस्टमर्स को अंडरराइट नहीं करेगी बिकॉज ऑफ देयर अंडरराइटिंग क्राइटेरिया। Giving you an example, my brother-in-law's mother just is going through a knee replacement surgery, which is very common for a senior citizen to go through. She only trusts one particular doctor who's available at one particular hospital. And hospital does not have cashless treatment, right? So she has to file for reimbursement no matter what now, right? So if you can avoid this, right, कि आप वो हॉस्पिटल को ढूंढ सकते हो और आपको अगर पता ही है कि डॉक्टर्स, बिकॉज डॉक्टर्स टिपिकली आर टाइड टू एन हॉस्पिटल फॉर अ लॉन्गर टेन्योर, राइट? सो देन दैट हेल्प्स अ लॉट।
तो ऐसी सिचुएशन में एक ऑल्टरनेटिव पॉलिसी क्या होगी जो लेनी चाहिए?
इन दैट केस दो चीज़ें हैं। आप टिपिकली बेस प्लान के साथ सुपर टॉपर पॉलिसीज भी खरीदते हो, दोनों कंपनीज के पास अच्छे सुपर टॉपर प्लान्स भी है। या आप एक पॉलिसी एक कंपनी से खरीदो, दूसरी पॉलिसी दूसरी कंपनी से खरीदो, तो दोनों कंपनी का नेटवर्क कंबाइन हो सकता है एक तरीके से, right? And you can use some part of the claim can be cashless and some part of the claim can be reimbursement in nature if you're very stuck, right? We don't get everything. We have to choose what we get.
So thank you Ruchir. It was a very insightful conversation today and I guess हमारे customers को भी आज बहुत clarity मिली होगी कि कौन सा policy किसके लिए best रहेगा.
Thank you so much for having me here. I hope I could add some value today to our customers who are viewing this video on this channel.